The secret history of Thanksgiving dinner. Before starting the video, I have a small request for all of you. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe and stay with me to watch more videos like this. The scent of roasted turkey and sage stuffing is, for most Americans, the olfactory trigger for a peaceful afternoon of football and family. We are taught the story in kindergarten. The buckled hats, the friendly feast, the hand-drawn turkeys made of construction paper. But the true history of the Thanksgiving dinner is not a singular event frozen in 1621. It is a sprawling 400-year-old epic of survival, political propaganda, the Industrial Revolution, and a persistent woman who refused to take no for an answer. The myth of the first menu. If you could travel back to the first Thanksgiving in Plymouth, you would likely find the table unrecognizable. There was no pumpkin pie, the Pilgrims lacked butter and wheat flour for crusts, and they certainly didn't have ovens. There was no cranberry sauce, sugar was a luxury they couldn't afford. Instead, the menu was dictated by the wild, rugged landscape of coastal Massachusetts. Edward Winslow, a primary chronicler of the time, noted that Governor Bradford sent 4 men on a fowling mission, and they returned with enough birds to feed the company for a week. While wild turkey was present in the region, the birds were more likely ducks, geese, and passenger pigeons. The real star of the show, however, was deer. The Wampanoag leader Massasoit arrived with 90 men and 5 deer as a gift. The first Thanksgiving was, in reality, a 3-day venison barbecue. The forgotten seafood feast. For a modern audience, the most surprising secret of the original Thanksgiving is the sheer amount of seafood. To the Pilgrims, the Atlantic was their pantry. The table likely groaned under the weight of lobsters, clams, mussels, and even eels. In the 17th century, lobster was so plentiful it was considered poverty food. It is a historical irony that the very foods we now consider delicacies were the humble fillers of the first autumn harvest celebration. The woman who saved Thanksgiving. For over 200 years after that 1621 feast, Thanksgiving wasn't a national holiday. It was a regional New England tradition, often celebrated on different days in different states. The reason you have a turkey on your table today is largely due to one person, Sarah Josepha Hale. Hale was the editor of Godey's Lady Book and the author of Mary Had a Little Lamb. She was a powerhouse of the 19th century. She believed a national Thanksgiving would unify a country that was rapidly tearing itself apart over the issue of slavery. For 17 years, she wrote letters to 5 different U.S. presidents: Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan, and finally, Abraham Lincoln. The first 4 ignored her, but in 1863, in the middle of the bloody Civil War, Lincoln saw the strategic value in Hale's vision. He issued a proclamation entreating all Americans to set aside the last Thursday of November as a day of thanksgiving and praise. Hale didn't just give us the date, she gave us the menu. She published recipes for the idealized feast in her magazine, cementing turkey, stuffing, and pumpkin pie as the official American meal to create a sense of shared national identity. The rise of the industrial bird. As the 20th century dawned, the Thanksgiving dinner underwent its most radical transformation, the shift from the farm to the factory. In the early 1900s, turkeys were still heritage birds, thin, athletic, and capable of flight. They tasted gamey and took a long time to cook. In the 1940s and 50s, the broad-breasted white was engineered. This bird was bred specifically for the American preference for white meat. It grew so large so quickly that it could no longer fly or even reproduce naturally. This secret of the poultry industry is why the modern Thanksgiving turkey looks so different from the wild birds the Pilgrims encountered. The invention of the side dish. Perhaps the most American part of the story is the 1955 green bean casserole. It wasn't born in a kitchen, but in a corporate test lab.
Dorcas Riley, a cook at the Campbell Soup Company, was tasked with creating a recipe using two staples every 1950s housewife had: green beans and cream of mushroom soup. It was a marketing masterstroke that became a cultural icon, proving that the Thanksgiving table is as much about corporate ingenuity as it is about ancient tradition. A modern reflection. Today, the secret history of Thanksgiving dinner is a reflection of America itself. It is a meal that began with indigenous generosity and colonial survival, was codified by a persistent female editor, used as a tool for union during the Civil War, and eventually shaped by the forces of modern capitalism. When you sit down to your meal this year, you aren't just eating dinner. You are consuming 400 years of political maneuvering, culinary evolution, and the enduring human desire to find a common ground through food.
The Secret History of Thanksgiving Dinner, Part 2. The Little Ice Age and the Survival Gamble. To understand the stakes of the 1621 feast, one must understand the climate. The early 17th century was part of the Little Ice Age. Winters were longer and more brutal than they are today. When the Mayflower arrived, the Pilgrims were not prepared for the acidity of New England soil or the harshness of the Atlantic storms. By the time that first harvest arrived, nearly half of the original passengers had died from scurvy, exposure, and malnutrition. The Thanksgiving wasn't a party. It was a desperate sigh of relief. The secret of the menu lies in the Wampanoag's intervention. Without their three sisters planting method, corn, beans, and squash grown together in a symbiotic mound, there would have been no harvest to celebrate. The corn provided a structure for beans to climb, while the squash leaves shaded the ground to prevent weeds. This ancient indigenous technology is the literal foundation of the American Thanksgiving plate. The Great Turkey Train, a 19th century spectacle. Before the invention of the refrigerated truck, getting a turkey to a dinner table in New York or Philadelphia was a logistical nightmare. In the mid-1800s, this birthed a bizarre phenomenon: the turkey drives. Farmers in Vermont and New Hampshire would drive thousands of turkeys on foot for hundreds of miles to the city markets. To protect the birds' feet for the long journey, they would often walk them through warm tar and then through sand, giving them a boot of sorts. This secret industry vanished almost overnight with the expansion of the American Railroad, which allowed for turkey trains to transport processed birds across the country in days rather than weeks. The Franksgiving controversy of 1939. One of the most surprising secrets in the holiday's history is that the date was once changed for the sake of shopping. In 1939, the United States was still clawing its way out of the Great Depression. Thanksgiving was set to fall on November 30th, leaving a very short Christmas shopping season. Retail giants pressured President Franklin Roosevelt to move the holiday up by 1 week to boost the economy. FDR agreed, moving it to November 23rd. The country exploded in outrage. Republicans called it an affront to the memory of Lincoln, and many Americans mockingly referred to it as Franksgiving. For 2 years, the country was split. Half the states celebrated on one Thursday, and the other half celebrated on another Thursday. It wasn't until 1941 that Congress stepped in and permanently fixed the date to the fourth Thursday of November. The Aluminum Revolution, the TV dinner connection. In 1953, the Swanson Company had a massive problem. They had over-ordered turkeys for Thanksgiving, specifically 260 tons of leftover birds sitting in 10 refrigerated railroad cars. An enterprising salesman named Jerry Thomas took inspiration from the partitioned aluminum trays used for airline food. He ordered 5,000 trays and created a turkey dinner with corn, peas, and sweet potatoes. This was the birth of the TV dinner.
It revolutionized how Americans thought about Thanksgiving. The meal no longer required days of labor in the kitchen. It could be consumed in front of the flickering light of a television, forever changing the social fabric of the American home. The pardon and the Cold War. The presidential turkey pardon is now a staple of American news cycles, but its origins are shrouded in myth. While folklore says it started with Lincoln or Truman, the formal pardon only became a yearly tradition with George H.W. Bush in 1989. The secret intent behind these public ceremonies was often distraction or soft diplomacy. During the Cold War, the poultry industry used these events to showcase the abundance of the American capitalist system compared to the food shortages in the Soviet Union. The giant white-feathered turkey became a living symbol of American agricultural dominance. The global spice trade on a local plate. The final secret of the dinner is its internationality. We think of it as a purely American holiday, but the flavors are a map of the colonial world. Cinnamon and nutmeg came from the Spice Islands, Indonesia, via the Dutch and British trade routes. Black pepper sourced from India. Sugar built on the back of the Caribbean plantation system. The Thanksgiving meal is in fact one of the first globalized meals in history. It represents the intersection of European desire for luxury, indigenous knowledge of the land, and the brutal efficiency of the Atlantic trade routes. Conclusion. The history of Thanksgiving dinner is not a static portrait of a peaceful afternoon. It is a story of a change in climate, a woman's political obsession, the demands of the retail industry, and the evolution of food science. When we look at the turkey, the green beans, and the cranberry sauce, we are looking at a historical document of the American experience. Complex, sometimes contradictory, but always evolving.
The Secret History of Thanksgiving Dinner, Part 3. The Great Regional Divide, Stuffing versus Dressing. While the national image of Thanksgiving is standardized, the secret of the dinner lies in its deep regionalism. This isn't just about taste, it's a map of American migration and immigration patterns. In New England, the stuffing remains close to its 17th century roots, heavy on bread cubes, sage, and often featuring oysters. Why oysters? In the 18th and 19th centuries, the Chesapeake Bay and the New England coast were so thick with oysters that they were used as filler to stretch expensive meat. As you move into the American South, the dish changes entirely. It becomes dressing, and the base is cornbread. This is a direct result of the geographic limitations of the 1800s. Wheat didn't grow well in the heat of the South, but corn was king. In the upper Midwest, specifically in states like Minnesota and Wisconsin, the secret ingredient is wild rice, a nod to the indigenous food sources of the Great Lakes and the Scandinavian immigrants who adapted their recipes to local grains. The 1920s and the birth of the spectacle. For centuries, Thanksgiving was a quiet religious affair. The secret to how it became a loud commercial spectacle lies in the year 1924. This was the year of the first Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. But it wasn't called the Thanksgiving Parade originally, it was the Christmas Parade. The secret motive was to kick off the shopping season with a bang. The first parade didn't have the massive balloons we see today. Instead, it featured live animals from the Central Park Zoo. Lions, tigers, and bears marched down the streets of Manhattan. The iconic giant balloons were introduced in 1927, designed by Anthony Frederick Sarg, a puppet maker. The first balloon was Felix the Cat. These balloons were filled with helium, and at the end of the parade, Macy's would simply release them into the air. They offered a reward to anyone who found the deflated balloons when they landed. This practice ended in 1932 after a balloon got caught in an airplane's wing, nearly causing a crash over New York Harbor. The science of the food coma. A secret that every American family discusses around 4 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day is the tryptophan myth.
For decades, popular culture has blamed the post-dinner nap on tryptophan, an amino acid found in turkey. However, historical and nutritional science tells a different story. Turkey actually has no more tryptophan than chicken or beef. The secret cause of the Thanksgiving sleepiness is actually the massive carbohydrate load. The combination of potatoes, stuffing, bread rolls, and pie causes a massive spike in insulin, which then allows tryptophan to enter the brain more easily. It isn't just the bird, it's the sheer volume of the sides that knocks the nation unconscious. The Civil Rights Movement and Freedom Sunday. One of the most profound and least discussed secret histories of the holiday is how it was used during the Civil Rights Movement. In the 1960s, activists in the South repurposed the holiday of thanks to highlight the lack of basic rights for African Americans. In 1969, the United American Indians of New England declared Thanksgiving a national day of mourning. This was a pivotal moment in American history where the secret, often painful reality of the first Thanksgiving was brought to the forefront. It challenged the nation to look past the myth of the friendly meal and acknowledge the centuries of land loss and cultural erasure that followed 1621. This tension remains a core part of how the modern U.S. audience perceives the holiday, a day of both gratitude and complex reflection. The rise of Friendsgiving. In the 21st century, the secret history of the holiday has taken a new turn with the Friendsgiving phenomenon. This shift represents a massive demographic change in the U.S. As young people move further away from their hometowns for work, the chosen family has replaced the biological one at the table. This has led to the internationalization of the menu. It is now common in American cities to see Thanksgiving tables featuring kimchi and rice alongside the turkey in Korean American households, tamales as a primary side dish in Mexican American homes, tandoori turkey in South Asian American communities. The final secret: why it endures. The secret of Thanksgiving survival isn't the food, and it isn't the history, it is its adaptability. Unlike Christmas or Easter, Thanksgiving has no mandatory religious icons. It is a secular vessel that every new wave of immigrants can pour their own culture into. It started as a 17th century survival meal, became a 19th century political tool, a 20th century commercial giant, and a 21st century celebration of diversity. The secret history is that Thanksgiving is never finished. It is rewritten every time a family of any origin sits down to share a meal. The Secret History of Thanksgiving Dinner, Part 4, The Final Act. The Pigskin Secret, Why Football Replaced the Knack. If the turkey is the heart of the day, football is its heartbeat. But why? The secret isn't just a love of sports. It was a calculated business move by the Detroit Lions. In 1934, the Lions were a new team struggling to find an audience in a city obsessed with baseball. The team's owner, George A. Richards, happened to own a radio station with ties to NBC. He cut a deal to broadcast a game on Thanksgiving Day so that the entire nation, sitting in their post-turkey haze, had no choice but to listen. The secret worked so well that it became a permanent fixture. Today, the NFL on Thanksgiving is one of the most watched television events in the world, turning a private family meal into a massive shared national ritual. It transformed the holiday from a day of reflection into a day of entertainment. The Black Friday Shadow. The most modern and perhaps most controversial secret of the Thanksgiving dinner is its relationship with the following day, Black Friday. In the late 19th century, the secret transition from gratitude to greed became a hallmark of the weekend. The term Black Friday actually originated in Philadelphia in the 1960s, used by police to describe the chaotic, smog-filled traffic jams caused by shoppers. By the 1980s, retailers rebranded the name to mean the day they finally went from being in the red, losing money, to in the black, making money. The Thanksgiving dinner, historically the end of the harvest, became the opening ceremony for the world's largest consumerist sprint. The secret ingredients of the modern chef. In the last decade, the American audience has moved away from the processed TV dinner era and into the era of the celebrity chef. This has introduced a new secret to the dinner: the brine. For 300 years, most Americans simply roasted their birds until they were dry and tough. But with the rise of the Food Network, a secret chemistry trick entered the mainstream. By soaking the turkey in a saltwater solution, brining, for 24 hours, the muscle fibers are physically altered to hold more moisture. This scientific shift represents the new Thanksgiving, one where tradition is balanced with culinary precision. The final secret, the psychology of the chair. As we conclude this historical journey, we find the most enduring secret of all. It isn't in the recipes or the politics, it's in the social contract. Sociologists call Thanksgiving the Great American Homecoming. In a country as vast as the United States, where children often move thousands of miles away from their parents, Thanksgiving is the one day of the year that requires a physical return to the original table. The secret history of the dinner is that it acts as a cultural glue. For one afternoon, despite political divides, economic shifts, or religious differences, 330 million people stop what they're doing to perform the exact same ritual. They eat too much, they watch a game, and they argue over who gets the last piece of pie. The legacy of 1621 in 2025. The secret history of Thanksgiving dinner is a mirror of the American soul. It is a story of conflict and cooperation between the Wampanoag and the Pilgrims, of war and peace, from Lincoln's Civil War proclamation to the quiet peace of a modern home, of simplicity and excess, from a handful of corn and some venison to a $60 billion global industry. As the sun sets on another November Thursday, the secret remains the same. The dinner isn't really about the food. It's a 400-year-old attempt to define what it means to be American. It is a messy, complicated, beautiful, and delicious history that continues to be written every time a family pulls a chair up to the table. Thin. I hope this secret history provided the surprising and immersive experience you were looking for.